You're listening to We Deepen Media.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Deepen with Christina. I'm your host, Christina Weber, founder and CEO of We Deepen, Feminine Weapon, and also a certified professional coach and intuitive matchmaker. If you haven't lately, go check out wedeepen.com. See all the upcoming social and transformational experiences. We have some new retreats. There's courses coming your way. Relationship Renegades has a really good one. I have just added Ken Page's Deeper Dating. So definitely check that one out. Ken Page is somebody that I go to for my own relational, as I'm navigating the dating landscape. He's one of my sources. So super excited to be working with him more deeply and having his podcast. Ken Page and I did launch the Dating Dojo together. Also, Amanda Young has a new course as well for women. So check that one out too. In the Austin area, we have some exciting things coming up. You know, I have spotted there's this trend, and if you are a listener of this podcast on a regular basis, you have heard, and actually I even have another podcast coming up with a new group, but there's this trend of adult play parties. Our educational curriculum neglected nearly everything that can help you have more meaningful, loving relationships. And that does include sex ed and erotic wellness. And there is this trend, there's this longing. We desire to be with each other and to have intimate relationships. And even if you're solo, even if you're single at that moment. So my guest today, I know he has played in the swingers scene, but there is this new wave of conscious play parties. And that word play, adults play through sex, doesn't mean that you walk into these play parties and a bunch of people are, pardon my language, fucking. It means that there is space to dive into the educational element around sexuality as grown-ups together in a space, and also to partake in some activities or to be a witness of, observer, see what's out there. That includes from BDSM to kink, to sensuality. And there's even a lot of these experiences, there's activation stations and the Mystery Temple, which is July 22nd. If you're listening to that before, there's Mystery Temple. Yosef Sagi is hosting that in Los Angeles, and that's on the calendar at We Deepen. And, there's these different play stations, and one of them is so sweet that you pull a card, and whatever poem is written there, the teller, the one who's handling that station, she'll whisper that poem into your ear as you're blindfolded. So a lot of sensational play and fun happening there. Here in Austin, Texas, we will be hosting a Boundless on August 12th. You can see all those details at wedeepen.com, and we will do our best to continue to vet and vouch for these experiences that we list there. So full spectrum. If you've been listening to since, months ago, you even see sometimes we even go in the political realm. We did the Love and Politics panel discussion. So wedeepen.com, check out all of those events. And if you are interested in private matchmaking, relationship coaching, there is a form there that you can complete and enter yourself into the We Deepen matchmaking database. And the interesting thing, is these experiences, they tend to attract people who are interested in growth. And that's where, I always operate a life of, when I even think of what I want in my relational realm, it's no attachment to outcome. Growth comes first. And so all of the people within the network of We Deepen, that's one thing that's really important to us. So if you are a growth-minded individual and interested in dating, relating, having healthy, epic, loving, meaningful relationships, you're going to get along with us and with the people that we attract. If you do enjoy this podcast, please do like, subscribe, follow, rate it, give it 5 stars. it helps more people find it, helps bring more people into the network, and to journey through these experiences, and helps me continue to do it. So please do give us 5 stars. So today, I've been part of the Esther Perel discussion group on Facebook since 2020. Leah Marshall, who runs the group, her and I did co-produce along with a third party Relate Fest at the top of 2022. And this group, there's about 15,000 people, and people will, it's Facebook style. So people post about what they're navigating relationally. They ask people for advice, opinions, share stories, resources. And Steve, who's my guest today, he is an active participant. I see him responding often. I think you spend a lot of time in this group.
I do. I'm there a lot. Yes, it's one of my favorite hangouts.
It is a favorite. It's one of my favorite hangouts too. Yeah. So Steve, we initially connected. I had posted a question about hormone injections, testosterone specifically. And I was curious if the trend of hormone injections, testosterone, could alter people's experience of love, and how that affects. And you had responded, and you had shared also too that you had been in your past had been saying that there was this dream girl. And I asked specifically, I'm like, can you tell me what is the story of this dream girl that you had? And your perspectives have always been really eye-opening and out of the box and make me think more deeply. And hey, we deepen. I'm always like, let me think in another direction. So I have been a fan of your engagement within that group. And so I'm super excited. We're getting to meet for the first time today, having this, multidimensional dialogue. As we start the conversation, 2 questions that I think to cover is, number one, I'd love to get your profile. If you could just tell the listeners a little bit about who you are, and your makeup as a human. We start to share, the difference between you and I is I'm 42, never been married, would love to be a mother and have children, and I'm in my dating experience and a startup founder. If you could share your profile and then what attracted you to the Esther Perel discussion group, and then we can jump off from there.
All right. So I will keep on looking at you to give me a timeout if I start going in too deeply or too far into this. I'm 63 years old, technically a single guy. I say technically because I don't have an official girlfriend or partner. I live alone, and happily so, and by design. This is by design. I've chosen to be this way. My history is... how do I describe this? I have a diverse history. I'm an art school dropout. I was a virgin at 21, highly romantic, really wished that the dream woman would show up in my life at age 21. This is the first woman who paid attention to me. I moved in with her so I could move out of my parents' place. And if you're hearing the red flags fluttering about, you're right. So I was with her for 12 years, had 2 affairs. And at the time, I believed it was because I'm lacking sex and I just want more sex. So that's why I'm having 2 affairs. I hold myself accountable for that. I'm not proud of it. So age 32, stepped from one relationship into right into my second affair partner, and moved in with her. So I was on my own for about a year, living in a rented condo, then moved in with her after she gave me the ultimatum that we have to either live with each other or stop seeing each other. So being petrified of being alone and not in a relationship, I said, oh, yes, I'll reluctantly live with you. So I was with her for 16 years, no affair. So my last affair was at age 32. I was with her for 16 years, started up my own software company, was a workaholic and not knowing it. And at age 48, miserable. So I had everything around me that you would think a guy needs to be happy. A large 5-bedroom house, 3 BMWs in the garage, grand piano, home theater, guest suite, large yard, all that beautiful stuff. And I'm absolutely miserable and thinking it's my partner. And that's why I'm miserable. Got to get rid of the partner because it's always the woman's fault, right? So age 48, I decided I've got to learn how to become a happy guy. And that's when I started my journey of inner work. And all I knew at that time was I want to become a happier person. So I've got to figure that out. And I thought the direction is learn how to become a happier person. And I thought, get more love in my life and get more peace in my life. I was still thinking about getting as opposed to becoming. So that's me at age 48. And that's been my journey for last 15 years. So when I left that relationship, 2 months later, the dream girl shows up in my life. And this is where the conversation now melds into the testosterone, the erectile dysfunction, the various drugs and stuff. So that's when it all blossoms. So picture a guy who has never learned how to be happy. He's been in 2 long-term relationships, and now he's met the dream girl. So we actually worked together. I reported to her for a while on contract. We're both out of our jobs. She's married to a swinger. I'm just getting out of my relationship. She's getting out of hers. And we both decide not a smart move to get together while we're paired up. So let's just go our own ways, and should we cross paths? Great. 2 months later, I get a call from her and says, would you like to get together for tea? So we did, and quickly became an in-love couple. That was my perspective on things, is I believed we became an in-love couple. I thought she was my dream girl. She's really pretty. She's very sexual. I don't want to be monogamous. She's from a previous swinger life, so she's okay with not being monogamous, denies me nothing. Very sexual, very pretty, very bisexual. I'm in the dream world. So that's my life for about a year or so. And we have this crush on a common girl. She is bisexual. She's got a crush on this girl. And we discover, oh, wow, you and I both have the crush on the same person. So we end up, and I'll cut this down as much as I can. We end up going to a swinger club. My first time, she's familiar with that. And I discover, my goodness, I love this. The electronic dance music, people dressed up. My goodness, the sexy vibe. I'm really into this. So I decided, man, I want to get into this scene. I want to become a swinger because I'm a non-monogamous guy. I'm thinking about myself. So knowing that, that's when I decided I better be able to deliver the goods when someone calls upon me as a swinger. So I decided to get into hormone replacement therapy. So my sex life at the time was pretty okay with this gorgeous female partner of mine that I thought was my dream girl. It was pretty okay. I was 52 at the time, or 50, 51, 52 around, so early 50s. I had occasional difficulty sexually. So sometimes not being able to sustain an erection, sometimes not being able to climax, sometimes not being able to get an erection, often not feeling aroused like I would want to be. So I've got this gorgeous woman. I'm naked in bed with her. I wish I was more horny for her, but it's not happening. So I concluded it's got to be hormones. So I engaged with a world-class hormone replacement therapy specialist. Really good doctor. She specialized in that things. Before they do anything, they get a complete medical history on you. They get blood tests to find out what their baseline is. And she asked me questions such as, do you faint? No. Do you have difficulty staying awake? No. Why? So I'm 50 years old roughly. And she says, well, you've got the hemoglobin of a man who's 85. I said, that's unusual. Hemoglobin is the stuff that carries oxygen on your blood cells. So it means that I have difficulty sustaining things like trying to run long distances. Not a good long distance runner. Sprinter, yes. Long distance runner, no. So she also noticed my testosterone is unusually low. So we got onto hormone replacement therapy. So they take your blood test every 2 weeks. They make sure that you're able to absorb the hormones they're giving you. And they keep on checking up with you. How are you doing? How are you doing? So I kept on getting higher and higher doses. And at one point, my doctor's asking me, do you have bouts of anger? No. Any rage or anything? No. Short temper? No. Why are you asking me? And she says, you're on the highest doses of testosterone I've ever prescribed. I've never gone this high. And I don't know if it's good for you. So I'm not getting any negative symptoms. And so how my sex life changed is I was feeling better. I was noticeably feeling better, but still not 100%. And I chalked that up to, well, I'm 50-ish or so. I'm not who I used to be at 30. So of course, it's just old age creeping up on me. All right. So I'm on hormone replacement therapy, super high doses of testosterone. It's helping. So I get into the swinger world. And just as insurance, I decided I'm going to get erectile dysfunction drugs, a drug called Cialis. It's a prescription drug. And they call it the weekender because it has an 18-hour half-life. You take a pill, 18 hours later, it's still in your bloodstream at half power. So at first I started with the smallest dose possible. I used it as insurance just in case I get called upon. I'm in a sexy scene so I can perform. In less than a year, I'm on the maximum dose. So I'm on the high doses of testosterone and the maximum dose of Cialis, and I'm running into scenes that still are not comfortable, such as, imagine a 2-woman blowjob. I'm in a threesome with 2 gorgeous women, and I'm having difficulty keeping it up. What's that about? I'm on maximum dose of Cialis as prescribed, on super high dose of testosterone. What's going on? Can't figure it out. On the drive home, half an hour later, I've got a chubby I can't get rid of. My goodness, what's that about? And I'll tell you how this all fits in afterwards. So people say, does the testosterone change you? Well, it can. Some people say it works really well. In my case, it improved my sex life somewhat, markedly better. The Cialis helped somewhat, sometimes better than not, but it still wasn't great. So that was me during roughly age 48 to 52, with this dream woman in my life, in the swinger world, having all the opportunities you could imagine with this absolutely gorgeous woman. And by the way, in the swinger world, if you're an average looking guy, but you have a gorgeous looking partner, you get a lot of traction by default because of her. So she ends up attracting the couples. The couples will do you just because they want to get through her. So by default, I got a lot of traction. I got a lot of experiences, and most of them were not great. So they weren't horrible, like making me go, I don't want to ever do that again. But they weren't experiences that would make me say, that one there, I definitely want to go back. There was very few of those. So that's my life at age 52.
And just real quick, why were you doing this?
Because I believed I'm a non-monogamous guy, and I really want this. I really want to have a vigorous, fulfilling sexual life. That's what I believed. The interesting thing is you're counseling people, so you're already thinking, well, Steve, at what point did you become happy doing this? And the answer is never. I was the kind of guy, Friday a couple, Saturday a couple, Sunday another couple. This is with my partner and I. 3 different couples across 3 days. Monday, I'm on the website looking for fresh meat. Who are we going to hook up with next? That was me. At no point did I go, my life is perfect now. I can just ease back. I don't need to keep on hitting the clubs every weekend. I'm just happy. My life is great. I was still craving that club scene. Who are we going to see next? Are we going to the club this weekend? Always on the website daily, several times a day, looking for new profiles, touching base with people, introducing myself. That was my life.
How is your connection with the quote unquote dream girl at this time?
But it was great. I believed it was great. And that's worth a discussion too, because whatever you believe in your head, you will experience that. So during our time together, occasionally I would see things that didn't quite fit and didn't feel good for me. For example, one night we're at a swinger club. She's walking across the dance floor to go to the restroom, and some guy sweeps her up in his arms, and they have this super passionate kiss. So she comes back after the restroom and asks her, who's that guy? Did you know him? And she goes, no, don't know him at all. It looked like you and him had more passion going between each other than you and I have. And the explanation, so that's my unease, is I'm thinking my girl is having more passion with another guy than with me. I'm not feeling good about it. And she gave me an explanation that feels really good for me, and that is everybody brings out something different in person. So I didn't actually see more passion. It just looked that way, is that it just appears that way as opposed to being truly more passion. So of course, that's the answer I would rather have, because in my mind, I didn't know it, is I really, really need her to be in love with me. And I don't want to hear anything to the contrary, because I'm really not wanting to be a single guy on my own. I need this gorgeous girl to love me because that makes me feel better. I didn't know all that stuff. So of course I would accept her explanation for things. So about 4 years into this, we're at our favorite swinger couple's place, and on a long weekend, and on the drive home, I say to her, to my partner, I don't think you're in love with me anymore. And that's when she confided in a sad voice, no meanness at all. She said, actually, I've never been in love with you. So at that point, I decided I don't want to be in this because I want my girl to be in love with me. So on that basis, we remained friends, but we split. But I kept on asking questions. And I learned she's never been in love with me, never found me attractive, never really cared about the kind of sex we shared. And it just didn't make sense to me. How, why, how, what's going on here? Why would somebody do this? And fortunately, I didn't see myself as a victim, because at that time I listened to a lot of Abraham Hicks, and the philosophy there is we co-create our life rather than being victims of our life. So yes, if someone hits you, you're a victim of violence. But if you believe I can't heal, or I can only heal if someone else changes, or someone else needs to heal me, that's victim consciousness, and it's debilitating. It's disempowering. So I learned she never was in love with me, never found me attractive, didn't care about the kind of sex we had. And I kept on asking these questions and kept on getting answers that didn't make sense to me. And a few weeks later, one of our swinger friends has a text conversation with me. Long story short is that she sends me a website link. So she's accusing me of covering my ass and you're not being honest with me. She sends me a link to a website. So I go to the website and it is a single woman sex provider. And it's the woman that was my partner for the last 4 years. I'm going, oh my goodness, I didn't know this. I had no clue. So she was leading a secret second life, a double life as a sex worker. Didn't know this. So being a techie guy, I looked at when was that website registered? It was 6 months after we got together. So for almost the entire time we were together, there's a secret double life going on. And I'm still wondering, why would somebody act this way, pretend to be in love with me? So I asked her and she said, I wanted to make you happy. And that still didn't sit well for me. It took me several months until it finally hit me. And the question I kept on asking is, what role did I play in co-creating this? And I finally came up with the answer. And that is, and this was painful to be 52 years old and realizing I have this deep emotional wound where I crave to feel loved by a woman. And I don't think well of myself. So when I have a beautiful woman on my arm, that makes me feel better. Because when I'm seen in public with this beautiful woman, when people look at me and go, oh, wow, he could get her. Wow, he must be a somebody. I had no clue that was me. Low self-esteem, low self-worth, not feeling worthy, not feeling loved, craving the adoration of a woman. And not just one woman, craving mass adoration. As a teenager, I wanted to be a rock star. And I didn't realize, oh, yeah, that's mass adoration. You wanted to be loved by many. That's what you're aching for. That's been my life. And I didn't realize it. 52, that hits me for the first time. Oh, my God. Yeah, that's what I'm carrying at age 52. Low self-esteem, low self-worth, craving the attention of women, and of course, beautiful women, and just craving them to be in love with me, craving them to think highly of me. That's me at age 52. So what about this woman? What was her role? And it hit me that both of us were fairly similar. And what she got from me was that adoration, that over the top, I'm crazy about you, writing poetry, composing music when she was over, like writing songs that just inspired by her. Wow, what a scene. Is this guy just gaga about her, and that feels good for a while until I get used to it, and then it's not great anymore, and you're on to the next thing. So that was my dream girl relationship. So that's me at 52 on Cialis, on a maximum dose of testosterone, hit and miss love life, hit and miss sex life, 52. I decided to pull back from the swinger world because single guys aren't top dogs in the swinger world. They're kind of like a dime a dozen. People typically don't want to interact with them.
Before you jump into that, I just have one question that's coming to mind is when you say that she confided that she wasn't in love with you and was never in love with you.
Right.
You were feeling that you were in love with her.
And I believed she was in love with me. And that's a story that I made up in my mind. Yes.
What does being in love mean? What is being in love?
That's a good question too. At the time, I believed being in love is absolutely adoring somebody and wanting to be with them forever and ever and feeling really, really good about them. That's what I believed in love was. Years later, I've learned what in love really is about. Ask anybody what in love means, and they'll probably use terms that reveal this in a roundabout way, is that in love has a lot to do with getting your needs fulfilled. It's not unconditional. It's not like, I'm in love with you, and it's okay if you don't know about me. That's totally fine because I'm in love with you and I feel really good about it. It's okay, you don't know I'm alive. That doesn't happen. In love is wanting needs to be fulfilled. So the concept of in love was invented by humans. It's not a natural thing. It was invented in the 17 and 1800s during the Romantic era. This is known as the Romantic era. It was invented by novelists, philosophers, and poets. And in love is this whole romantic notion that was created during that time, and it has a number of characteristics. Some of the characteristics are that somewhere in the world is a person who is uniquely meant for you. This person is specifically meant for you. It's just a matter of meeting them. When you meet this person, you will know it. You will know that they're meant for you. And you will know it just by sheerly, just like the slightest look at them. By looking, they go, oh my God, that's the one. And they'll know it too. So you'll both know that you're meant for each other. And when you know this, you will both fall in love and you'll both realize, oh, you're for me. You will come together and it'll be natural and effortless. You'll both intuitively know each other's needs and you'll fulfill them easily and happily. You'll just be for each other, whatever you need. You'll fill in each other's voids. You'll be totally happy. You'll have an abundance of free time. You'll be focused on each other forever because you're in love. You'll be able to have these wonderful romantic scenes, which usually take place around like waterfalls, beaches, sunsets. Those are good places for romanticism. On extended vacations where you don't have to worry about finances in the regular life. Those are concepts that relate to in love. So the in love thing is about getting my needs fulfilled. Mm-hmm. And the expression I use that is ugly but accurate, and that is when someone says, I'm in love with you, what it usually means is I look at you and I believe you have the stuff that I need to fill my inner voids, fulfill my needs, take away my loneliness and make me happy. I believe that you have that stuff and I believe you'll give it to me. And oh my God, I'm so in love with you because you are the key to my happiness now. Mind you, I've never been happy before I met you. I've never been happy since birth. I've always felt something's missing, but you're going to transform me into being happy. And of course, you don't have that awareness, but that's the in love thing. That's why it's passionate.
Well, it's interesting because the topic of discernment has been coming up around me. And because, you know, there is a thing of human beings, like we need each other. Like we're like to be a human being on an island by yourself is not really that fulfilling life. What makes, you know, human beings aren't really special. One of my teachers said this recently, human beings aren't really special on our own. We're special through the bonds that we create with other people. Now, the idea of the romanticism, I believe that you're saying is, you know, I hear these stories often, specifically sometimes of the younger generation and in worlds like Bali. Like I travel through Bali and they're like, oh, that's my soulmate over there. And there's my twin flame. And I find myself like giggling a bit, even too recently at the biohacking conference. There was this exceptional older man who gifted me this, you know, short session, and I'm going to host him on my podcast, but he said, you know, generally when I work with people, they'll find their soulmates after. And there's a thing inside me that cringes, like, ugh, because I think there's this thing of needing each other. And I'll say even that in business, discernment is coming up too in business, because like you need to build a company and you need people to do different roles and play different. So and maybe there's a transactional approach to that. Like, I'm going to pay you this to fulfill this. However, in love, when I think of the idea of soulmates or romanticism, I cannot wait to be 80 years old and to be able to look back at my life and be like, oh, that was a significant connection. And this is where I learned this from. And maybe, you know, I've always had this fantasy dream, and I'm hoping it doesn't happen on my deathbed. Or it doesn't, I've always envisioned it happening on my deathbed, but I hope it's not like the first encounter, but that I would be able to, you know, roll over and see my partner. Sometimes I think that I'll meet him at that moment, but maybe it'll be the realization of who he was in that moment, and I'll hold his hand and be like, it was you. And then we die. That's my romanticism. And it's because like, you don't know these things as we're going through life and we're journeying and we're in our growth experience. And for me, love is this process. I like to break it down. And I took this, it's one of the things. I studied Kabbalah for years. And one of the things I took from studying Kabbalah is this, love is a process of removing layers of the ego combined with ever increasing acts of sharing, because you give to who you love.
I share that view as well. Now I'd like to reveal some truths to you. These are my truths, things that I ardently believe are true, and I believe I can support them through science. Is one of the things you said, I will restate it, is that humans have naturally evolved to be pack animals. That means we as a species, as an animal, have evolved over arguably about 2 million years to be pack animals. That's who we are. We're wired to be pack animals. We're not wired to be lone things like a lizard where you just lay some eggs and you go away. So we thrive in the pack. That's our natural state. So our natural state is to be in packs and to connect easily and effortlessly and wonderfully and deeply with others of our species. So let me start from very youngness. Imagine a small child, an infant. If everything works well, the parents, the primary caregivers, typically parents, biological parents, are there as the child needs in whatever capacity the child needs. So there's obviously the physical things, food, shelter, clothing, the necessities for physical survival. There's also things the child needs for emotional well-being. And that is that infant, they're not aware of this, but the infant needs to understand, needs to take in an environment in which I am safe and all my needs will be met and there is no risk to me. I'm not in danger. That is the ideal situation. And what that would look like is parents that have the infinite capacity to be infinitely patient with that child and be there whenever the child needs. When the child cries, is you pick up the child because the child isn't manipulative. This infant is crying for a reason. They have no language. If they're cold, they cry to be warmed up. If they're hungry, they cry to be fed. They cry because there's a legitimate need, or they might have had some mental thing going on. We call them dreams that might have terrified them. That infant can't separate a dream from reality. They're terrified. They've had this dream, something's going on. They need comfort. So the parent will pick them up and hold them and bond them and let them know that I am always here for you. No matter what, I will never abandon you. I'm here for you. You are safe. So in infancy, assuming everything goes well, the child starts getting these imprints of my world is safe. All my needs are always met in a timely manner. Nothing's rushed. My caregivers, these whatever is the thing out there providing for me is always there for me. Isn't that great? I am safe. So those imprints start developing in the child's mind. Then as they get a little bit older, they start becoming independent. So they start wondering, can I explore the world? If everything is ideal, the parent is there saying, hey, go ahead, explore, have fun. I'm here. I'm watching over you. You can't possibly get lost. So the kid runs away, looks over the shoulder. Yep, mom's walking over me. The kid falls down. Dad scoops him and says, hey, buddy, are you okay? The kid grows up with that feeling of knowing that it's safe to explore this world because I'm covered. I'm protected. That's the ideal world. What typically happens is we get traumatized in childhood. Real life kicks in. Both parents are typically working. They don't have time to spend with the child. We've probably been taught things such as, well, if the child is crying in the crib, you have to let them cry it off. Otherwise, they'll become the tyrant and they'll become the master of the house. You've got to get your sleep. So you just got to let them cry it off in the crib. Unintentionally, we're telling that child, the needs you have aren't being tended. What you need won't come. It's not reliable. Later on, when a kid is crying or angry, we tell a little girl, good girls don't get angry. Go to your room. Without realizing it, we're saying, you're having a timeout. Come down when you've got a smile on your face. What we're telling them without realizing it is, you're not worthy of love. That's all conditional. You're only worthy of love when you behave in the appropriate manner that we approve of. So you need to win our approval and earn it in order to be lovable. So without realizing it, we traumatize our children. Instead of being natural, meaning I'm aware of what's inside me and I willingly express it because my needs will be met, is we start separating from our authenticity. We start becoming less able, less open to express what's inside us because we know help isn't coming. And then we try, without realizing it's a survival instinct, the infant, the small child tries to become more likable to get my needs met. They try to either become the soother, the people pleaser, trying to regulate the parents to make sure mom's always okay. Whenever mom's crying, the kid will be there. Hey, mom, do you want a coffee? Can I get you something? Trying to make sure the parent's okay so that I can get my needs met without even realizing it. All survival mechanisms. And this stuff, this trauma lasts into our adult life. So it's true that we're pack animals, absolutely true. And it's true that if we are well-adjusted, happy adults, we easily, effortlessly connect with other people. But what trauma does is it separates us from our authentic self and makes us crave that feeling of connection. Because we're disconnected from who we really are, we're now craving a feeling of connection, not realizing we're craving to reconnect with ourselves. We're wanting to be more authentic. We're wanting to be more open. We're wanting to have the world accept us. Just let me be me. Let me say what I'm feeling without judging, without thinking I'm a terrible person. And we're afraid of that. And we're living that way in inauthenticity. And we're trying to get the feeling of connection through others. And unfortunately, for many people, and you'll see this in guys, is the closest they can get to a feeling of connection is through sex. It's because I'm naked, she's naked, and that's as close as they can get to intimacy. So there isn't really any openness. There isn't open-heartedness of sharing what's inside me. Like the guy doesn't look into the woman's arms and say, look, I just want to tell you, I'm scared shitless at work. I'm paying for the house. I'm paying for your upkeep. And I'm terrified that I'm not going to be man enough because my job's on the line. I think my boss is going to fire me. They just can't share that because men don't share that. Men are strong. Men are providers. So I can't do that as a guy. So they're aching for connection and yet unable to have that connection. And they're trying to get that feeling of connection through others, through a pair bond, through sex, through something, just trying to feel connected. So the interesting thing is if we can heal our wounds, as we get better at healing our wounds, we reconnect with our authenticity. we are more willing to, we become more aware of what's inside us. We're more willing to express it, knowing full well the natural order of things is a lot of people aren't going to like me. That's natural. It's natural that not every one of those 8 billion people are going to like me. That's normal. Some people are going to adore me, and that's the stuff going on in their head. That's not who I am. They'll adore me because they'll imagine I'm their soulmate or something, or that I can make them happy, or maybe I have something they want. They'll adore me for that, or else they'll hate me. Most people will be indifferent. That's the natural order of things. It has nothing to do with me. So we can reconnect with ourselves, be more authentic, and then realize it's not someone else who's going to make me complete. It's not someone else who's going to fulfill me and make me happy. We become more happy beings. And when we become happier, we then start relating to people on a totally different basis. Instead of relating on a basis of need, I need you, so you'll fill my inner voids, fulfill my needs, take away my loneliness, and transform me into a happy person. Instead of that, it's like, hey, you're a cool drummer. Where did you learn that? Curiosity. It's curiosity. It's appreciation. We relate not out of, I'm in love. It's like, wow, you're an interesting person. Oh, you're a foodie as well. Cool. I've got this restaurant that I've been dying to go to. Would you like to go with me? And it's not considered a date because I'm not looking for a girlfriend. I'm not trying to pair up. It's a, we can have a foodie experience. Let's go together. And then we start discovering more about each other. And you go, oh yeah, she's interesting in that perspective as well. Cool. Would you like to go? And after a few months, would you like to go on a trip with me? You know, a weekend trip or going away to Niagara Falls. Would you like to see that? I've never seen Niagara Falls. You start discovering things you have in common. And the basis of the connection is two humans sharing common experiences that they like, rather than I need you to be happy because without you, I'm miserable. Don't you ever abandon me. I'll be miserable if you ever leave me. It's I'm totally happy on my own. I love my life. And I'm really thrilled to discover you. This is neat. So that's a different way of relating. And it's very unromantic. It's not in love. It's an appreciation. It's acceptance. And it's also when someone looks at you and says, you don't need to change. Don't change. Please don't change. Be who you are. Act in as authentically as you can be. If you like something, go for it. I want you to be happy with or without me. Just go for whatever it is that you want to do. Explore whatever you want and push back whatever you don't want. And if you're happy spending time with me, awesome. If you're not happy being with me, that's okay. Do what feels right for you.
So I can see what you're saying. We can put a pin in this because I can see that there's romanticism can live inside of that experience. I don't think that we necessarily need to cut out romanticism altogether because that's a part of sharing with each other. And there's even something so romantic about being more authentically you in every moment with another human being. But before we jump there, I want, from a profile type, you being a 68-year-old man, did you say you're 68? 63. I thought, okay. Yeah, you said 15 years plus that. Okay. So 63-year-old man, and you have thought a lot about this, and you've been in this, 15-year growth experience from 48 years old and healing traumas and becoming more aware of your reality and doing the work that I do. What I've noticed more so of adding, so We Deepen, I initially began curating all the top social and transformational experiences courses that I had deemed could help people have more meaningful, loving relationships. And then the pandemic happened. We got this opportunity. I got an invite from the biohacking conference to facilitate a singles event. The Dating Dojo was created in 2020. And that invitation came with, I thought this would be great for a relationship coach or a private matchmaker. And then remember, this is what you do. You specialize in creating dating events. And, this is the time of the pandemic. My business had kind of been crushed because really selling tickets to live experiences only works in scale. Yeah. So with that relationship coach, private matchmaker, I had been in school. I had gotten my coaching certification, and I realized, wow, we have this large network of growth inspired people. Let me start connecting them. And more recently, I'll say within the past few months, women over 50 who are incredible, these incredible, beautiful, at the top of their career, successful, introspective, are coming to me, and I have them in the almost like an oversupply of these amazing women that I want to support. Like, I want to be able to go and become a genie and grant them these amazing men. Yeah. And yet, one of the things that I believe that I relate to my audience and those listening to this, I don't come into this, recording this podcast and be like, I figured it all out. I have all the solutions and all the answers, and here's how you do it, and manifest the guy, and here's how you get the girl. No, I'm in this journey with you because I'm dating, and I'm, significantly dating. And I wouldn't say that I'm in a committed relationship at this moment in time. So there's like this reconciling that experience. I guess my question for you is, what would you tell a woman who's, she's past, I'm not past the childbearing ages, but, a woman who's past the childbearing ages, and she is wanting, longing, for, not from a place of need, but from a place of like, I want to share my life and have these great experiences with, enriching men and have deep intimacy. Like, what advice would you give her?
One thing I don't tell people is drop the romanticism. If somebody resonates with the romanticism, they're looking for their soulmate, the hardest thing to do is to shut off a belief. It's virtually impossible just to switch it off. What's much easier is have the experience. If you believe this is going to be great, have the experience and have it as many times as you need to have it until you either get that greatness that you think it's going to be, or until you conclude, I've had this 25 times and it's still not great. Maybe I had a wrong belief. That's what it was like with swinging, is I thought swinging would be awesome, did it a number of times, and most of the time it wasn't great. And I had some learnings from that. So the thing I tell people, everybody, is take a look at who you are now. That's who you're bringing into your relationship. Are you happy? Are you complete? Are you whole? Do you feel your life is whole? Do you feel a whole person, or do you feel something's missing? Do you feel fulfilled? Do you feel content? Are you at peace? Are you restless? Are you never lonely or bored? Whoever you are, and by the way, those criteria are the things I use for assessing a person's state of well-being. If they say hell yeah to all those, okay, they're in a good place. If you're not in a good place, realize that's the person you're bringing into every one of your relationships, whether it's amorous or platonic. That's the person you're bringing to the table. And the mistake we make is thinking someone else is going to change that for me, rather than when I become the right kind of person, I will become a virtual magnet for wonderful experiences. And I can give you a true story of a woman that I met several years ago. I discovered her on a swinger website. She appeared in her mid-40s. And I wasn't sure if she was a sex worker or something, because she had these really hot made-up boudoir pictures, and you could tell she's in her mid-40s roughly. And I was wondering, like, what's her story? So I sent her an email, and she said, yeah, I do modeling somewhat, but I don't do it professionally. Last I heard of her. I then met her at a swinger barbecue, so purely social event, full of swingers. And she's there, no red hair, no makeup, t-shirt and jeans. Her hair isn't made up, just looks like a regular person you could easily miss. I introduced myself, and we started talking. And she shared her life story with me. And she has a history of diagnosed mental illness. So she was on antipsychotic drugs, antibipolar, antidepressant, under psychiatric care. Cocaine was her drug of choice, alcohol problems. That was her life. And then she started reading some of the stuff I was writing. And she had an injury in which she was immobilized for several months with a serious injury where she couldn't work. And she ended up spending a lot of time researching trauma, not physical trauma, but mental trauma. And she came to the conclusion, holy shit, I don't have mental illness. I have untended childhood trauma. So in her 40s, she started working seriously, doubling down, working hard on her trauma. So she's in the swinger world, not liking it, not having great experiences. She's perimenopausal. She thinks, oh, my life is dried up. I'm an old tree. I'm going to pull away from the swinger world. I'm not a happy person. And she really works hard on this inner work. That's mid-40s. So she's now 49. She doesn't resonate with monogamy, but she's not on the hunt for anything. She's a single, and I see a fair amount of her. In the past 22 months, we've been together roughly 30% of the time. She's a single, I'm a single. She's now a magnet for awesome experiences, fully menopausal, but she is a magnet now for awesome experiences. People constantly come up to her and talk to her. And if you look at her, you can easily miss her in a crowd. So she's not one of these like, oh my God, she's gorgeous. She's easily miss her. but yet she has these wonderful experiences. People constantly connecting with her. She connecting with people, having wonderful conversations just coming out of nowhere. She manages a cafe, so she's at takeout, and a person drives by. This woman has a 3-minute conversation while she's getting her beverages served, and she says, "I'm going to come into the store and talk with you." Drives around, parks her cars, and wants to come in and talk to this woman. She's making connections like that all the time, effortlessly. And she says, "I'm doing nothing to make it happen. It's constantly happening." She went away on a vacation for 1 week on her own, constantly meeting people. And she doesn't have that look where you go, "Oh my God, she's gorgeous. I've got to meet her." She looks like a regular person, but yet there's something about her that's attracting people constantly. So yes, you said, I want to have that life, that I want to share my life with somebody. It may not look the way we imagine it. The way it looks with her is she's technically a single woman. She and I have spent 30% of our time together over the past 22 months. We're both singles, no expectations, no needs, no obligations, no rules. Just live your life, be happy, but we're constantly inspired to get together.
And are you intimate?
Yes, yeah. And here's the wrap up of the high testosterone and ED drugs. So at 52, I stopped the testosterone therapy and stopped my erectile dysfunction. So I've been off all meds, I didn't do recreational drugs, so off all meds, including Cialis, so no erectile dysfunction drugs, for over a decade now. I've been off all that stuff. You would imagine from age 52 to 63, the guy's hormones will be declining, obviously, and he'd be getting in worse shape, obviously. I should lose about 40 pounds. I'm 215 pounds, so I could lose about 40 pounds. So I look like an average guy, thinning and receding hair, 63 years old. And she's 49. We see each other 30% of our time. We have sex. And the first time we had sex, we went like, whoa, this is really good. I'm really enjoying this. Totally effortless, no anxiety, no problems, no erectile problems. And it's been getting better ever since. And a few months into the relationship, I said to her, this is the best sex I've ever had in my life, bar none, ever. And she says, yeah, me too. Cool. She's been doing a lot of inner work as well. So before we had sex, we just had the talk. We were totally honest with each other. The way we came together was during COVID. We were both vaccinated. We had never connected with each other in any romantic sense, nothing. We didn't have the hots for each other. She just contacted me and said, would you be interested in getting together? We talked about vaccine status. It made sense for her to visit me. She's about 100 miles away from me, so an hour and a half drive. So it made sense for her to visit me. I said, let's stay for a couple of days. I have a spare bedroom if you want to stay there. If you want to sleep in the same bed with me, you're welcome. And I told her, I was very honest with her. I said, I don't have the hots for you. I'm not going to hit up on you, but the thought of you and me naked with each other has crossed my mind, and that's an experience I'm open to. So I just want you to be aware of that. And I will never push that upon you, but my mind has gone in that area. She said, yeah, me too. I'm curious about it. And I asked her, would you be interested in having to talk about sex right now? She said, oh, yeah. Okay, so we talked about what are you into? What are you not into? I told her about my fetishes. My fetish is I'm a homoclitic. That is the official term for someone who has a near fetishistic attraction to hairless genitals. Okay, I own it. I'm there. And she said, yeah, no problem. So we talked about what we like, what we don't like. We're both way into oral. She said that she's not into vaginal intercourse because it's painful for her. She was at the time perimenopausal. And I said, yeah, I could live on oral alone and love it, giving and receiving. So we thought, yeah, we're probably pretty compatible. Yeah, okay, we may be okay. We got together. Again, no new relationship energy, no I'm in love, just two people liking each other because she's doing deeply inner work, highly self-accountable, no expectations either way, just like, hey, just be you. If we like each other, we'll be inspired to meet again. And if we don't, it's okay. You can always leave at any time. It's all right. So the first time we had sex was that night. It was easy, comfortable, no tension, no nervousness. And she said to me, this feels strange for me. It feels like we've known each other for ages. I said, yeah, we feel like sort of the good parts of an old couple, but without the bad parts. Like we don't have that I'm used to you, I'm taking you for granted thing going on. So the sex was wonderful first time. It was very pleasurable, but it got better because as we got to know each other better, I developed a greater appreciation for her. When we first got together, I wouldn't say I love the woman. I'd say, yeah, I like her. She's interesting. Today, I would say comfortably, and I tell her, I love this woman, but I don't mean it in the romantic way. I have deep appreciation for her. I care about her. I want her to be happy. I want her to be happy with me or without me, but I don't take accountability for her happiness. I will make small changes if something bugs her. like, don't leave your socks on the floor or else put your shoes up against the wall when we take off our shoes. Okay, easy thing. But I'm going to be me around me. And here's the unromantic part. The very first time we get together, she's burping and farting in my presence. How unromantic, how horrible. Isn't that terrible? A real person. Girls do fart sometimes. A real person, right? So she's not trying to be best behavior. She's not trying to get me to fall in love with her. She's just being a real person, not censoring anything, just being totally authentic. And I thought, whoa, I've never seen this before, but it's interesting. So that's how we started, by being totally authentic with each other. And now I really do love this girl. Not the only person I love, because I see myself as a loving person, but she's the one I'm most closely involved with and spending most of my time with her. And if you ask me, you've got 2 free weeks, who do you want to spend it with? Oh yeah, that girl. Yeah, I'd see if she's available. Because we always have great times together. There's no pressure. It's really, really easy. 22 months and still no arguments, no difficulties. We had one wobble in that entire time. I have an iPhone and I'm a techie, so I wanted to do shared lists so that when I put something on my iPhone, it shows up on hers as a shared list, so we can have shared checklist of groceries we're going to do or something. And I was trying to get it debugged, and I'm seeing her getting teared up. And I put my phone down, I said, what's going on? And she said, it's my last day here with you, and I'm not inspired to figure this thing out right now. I just rather spend it with you. I said, okay, let's do that then. Normally, I would have wanted to debug it, figure it out. I just put the phone down. It didn't bother me. I'll figure it out. You're not inspired to get involved in this. I'll do it on my own. The neat thing is she had the awareness to know what's going on inside her. I had the awareness to take accountability for what's happening and not be attached to, but I want to get this fixed right now. Just give me a half hour more to get it fixed. It's like, it's not important. Just put it aside. So that's the one wobble we've had. Disagreements. Oh, she wants Chinese for dinner and I'd rather have steaks. Okay, how strongly do you feel? Okay, 60% in favor of that. I'm 40% in favor of steaks. Okay, we'll do it your way. Not a problem. That easy.
Now, what is it's 22 months together? Congratulations. That's a significant period of time. And I hear you say, we're both single people. Would you, Leah from the Esther Perel discussion group, she calls herself a solo poly.
Solo poly, yes. So solo poly is close to what I resonate with, because the principle of polyamory is loving many. But most people assume that loving many is the same as having sex with many. So the last time I had sex with a woman other than this woman I'm seeing now was 4 years ago, just before COVID. So when COVID hit, obviously isolating because I don't want to die. There were no vaccines available, stopped seeing people. It didn't bother me at all. So technically, I've been monogamous. Technically, I've been monogamous with one person. That doesn't mean that I'm close to anything else. I'm just not on the hunt. So I'm not looking. I need someone else to bang. I'm not in that space. So I'm fine. I'm totally fine. There's nothing missing, nothing that I'm needing. So I'm not looking for other experiences. But if one should show up and I'm curious about it, I might end up talking with the person, getting to know them and seeing if we're both inspired to go there. That's a possibility, but it's not a pressing matter. Meanwhile, she's had other experiences with other people. It's fine. That's her business. She shares with me as to the degree she wants to. I don't believe there's any secrets. She's told me, yeah, I was on vacation. I hooked up with this guy. Cool. Okay. Was that a good experience? Yeah, it was all right. Oh, okay. I was hoping it'd be better for you. It's that easy, because I've worked 15 years to become this guy. 15 years ago, I thought I was a non-monogamous guy and discovered painfully that I wasn't. The first time that my dream girl told me, oh, I met a guy on the net, I'm going to hook up with him. And I felt like shit. And I realized, oh, I'm not the guy I wanted to be. So I doubled down. I asked her temporarily, don't tell me what's going on. Don't ask, don't tell. I've got to work on my stuff. I just don't know how to handle this temporarily. So do what you want. I just can't handle it yet. So I've got to figure out how to become the person that's not going to judge you and not need you to be a certain way so I can be okay.
And so in this new relationship of the one that's you've been in for the past 2 years, so you have been monogamous with her, technically.
Not monogamously minded, but just not having sex with other people. And it's not like I'm pushing anybody away, but yes, just haven't had sex with anybody else.
And but she's had other encounters, and in that experience, she shares with you about, and you have no problem. No problem.
That's because the relationship she and I have, that's unique. That can't be duplicated anywhere. So something Esther Perel, she's a famous relationship counselor, wonderful person, as you know from the Esther Perel group. She says we shortchange ourselves if we measure the success of our relationship by the exclusivity, meaning I'm preventing you from having connections with anybody else. Don't be close with anybody else emotionally because that's not allowed. Don't kiss anybody because that's not allowed. we're shortchanging ourselves because we think that's what makes us who we are, as opposed to there's a lot unique between you and me. Who I am can't be duplicated anywhere else. So the experience you have through me is unique. Doesn't mean it's the best in the world, just means this thing you and I have is unique. Anything you have with anybody else, that's in addition to this. It's not taken away from this. Doesn't mean you love me less, care about me less. She's still, her spare time she'd rather spend with me. But when she was with somebody else, that's her thing with somebody else, and she's enjoying that experience for that time. She's present there for that experience.
Do you two have any commitments together?
Commitments to, yes, the commitments we have are to ourselves as opposed to each other. So we don't have this don't abandon me thing going on. We discussed how we feel about sex with others. So we didn't say, you've got to measure up to this. I said, I volunteered. The way I think is I don't want to get an STI, so I'm good with having unprotected sex with you. But should I have sex with other people, I will always wear a condom for penetrative sex. That's my understanding. That's my intention. Should I ever get an STI, I will alert you immediately, and I will stop having sex with everybody until I get it managed and until I get it under control, because I don't want to spread it. What are your thoughts on this topic? And she said, yeah, I'm on the same basis. So with each other, we have unprotected sex. With other people, oral is unprotected, but any penetrative sex is with condoms. So that's the understanding.
So all you're saying sounds great for somebody who is over the childbearing ages or desires to create family.
Yep.
How would you consider this when kids are desired or in the mix? And I imagine you have not had children yourself.
I have not by design. I never could imagine my life better with children. And that's because of trauma. Now I recognize it's all trauma from childhood. I just couldn't picture a better life with kids. So the advice I would give everybody is to reconnect with your authenticity. That is vital. That's helpful to you. And that is no matter what you do for the rest of your life, whether you're paired up or single, whether you're poly, whether you're monogamous, if you reconnect with your authenticity and heal your inner wounds, doesn't mean you have to be 100%. But as you work towards that, you will notice your life getting better and clearer. So you might discover that I wanted a kid because I thought if I had unconditional love, that would feel great. That's what I'm really wanting from a child, because I've never got that from anybody else. So I envision if I had a child, that child will look into my eyes and I would feel this unconditional love and this child would just adore me. That's why I want a kid. They might come to that conclusion. Or they might say, yeah, I'm aware that raising kids is the hardest damn thing on the planet. But I think it would be an interesting experience to have that experience, because I believe I'm healed enough to be able to put into action the stuff I've been learning for the past 10 years. And I believe I could be that good parent. And I believe I could have the kind of relationship with my kid that I wish I had had, that I believe I'm in a place now that I can provide for that kid, because I really do want to be with that child. I want to be there to pick her up whenever she cries. I want to do that because I envision that would be a wonderful experience. Hard as hell, but I think it'd be a worthwhile thing. So totally different motivation. And I will never tell somebody you're wrong for being the way you are. It's because each of us are where we're at. That's just the fact. And it doesn't serve anybody to deny them, to say, oh, you shouldn't feel that way, you shouldn't think this way. The fact is they are as they are. So they're not wrong for wanting a child. They're not wrong for wanting a pair bond. They're not wrong for wanting monogamy. None of that is wrong. It's just where they're at this time. And they might keep that for the rest of their life. Who knows? They might keep parts of it. It's just whatever you choose. And it's not ingrained within you. You always get a chance to change your mind as you go along.
So you spend a lot of time in the discussion group, the Esther Perel discussion group. What are some observations that you've made around where society is relationally at this moment in time?
Everyone thinks they're unique, and there's some truth to that. Is there are no duplicates on this planet. So the stuff in our head is unique. There isn't a duplicate anywhere. Your beliefs, opinions, assumptions, expectations, and understandings, that web of stuff is not duplicated anywhere. So that's what makes us unique. What makes us similar is that we often have very similar problems. Most people are, loneliness is the number one ailment in North America, the number one thing. So most people are feeling lonely at some time. They're wanting to feel connection. They're aching to feel connection. And because we've grown up in a patriarchal society where guys typically get the upper hand, guys are typically the hunters, girls are typically the passive ones hoping to be noticed and chosen, typically not always, to some extent. And both sexes are looking for that feeling of connection And we're raised in an environment of romanticism. So we typically believe the way to get this feeling of connection is to pair up with somebody, fall in love, and live happily ever after. And talk to people who've been in relationships. And most of your audience will likely have been in more than one relationship. And ask them, why have you been in more than one relationship? And the answer is, well, that one didn't work out. This one didn't work out. That one didn't work out. Each time we went in thinking this is going to work out. Each time we've been wrong. How many times do we have to repeat this cycle until we realize the thing that I believe hasn't paid off yet, and yet I'm still doing it? I'm still believing that if I only found that person, I could be happy. Mm. So that doesn't mean become a hermit, wall yourself up in a Tibetan cave, stop socializing. It doesn't mean that. It means learn how to reconnect with your authenticity and heal your inner stuff. Then you can relate to others in a different way. And I'm just painting an idea. So I'm not saying I'm predicting your future, but a possibility might be for you is that you remain single for the rest of your life and you have 3 people that you absolutely adore and they're crazy about you. One is a woman, 2 are the guys. You have this incredible relationship. You're intimate with some of them periodically, so some are platonic. And then you end up focusing on one person. They seem to be more special than the others, and you spend more time with them. And then on your 88th birthday, you're in the hospital and the doctors are thinking, yeah, this is near the end of life. And she's going, when you look back at it, that guy has been incredible, even though we've never been married, even though we technically haven't been a couple. That's been an amazing ride. It's just been incredible. We've done so much together. It's been experience after experience after, the story of you can never have, your life cannot be in a pearl necklace. It is individual pearls that over time get strung onto a string. And at the end, you realize, oh, I've got a necklace. At any point, you don't have that necklace that you keep on envisioning as, oh, I wish I could have that to be happy. But at the end, you realize, yeah, I created that through every individual step along the way. So you might never have a child and yet feel my life has been fulfilling, absolutely rich and fulfilling. I've never had a kid, but man, have I had amazing connections. And the amazing thing is this guy in my life who is the love of my life, who is the most amazing person, who never judges me, who is just so accepting and so endearing. When I go on a vacation with the girls and I met this other guy and, I just wanted to kiss him and I did. And we got some touchy-feely stuff and I felt like shit. I felt guilty and I didn't know if I could tell my guy. When I told him, he said, hey, girl, just be happy. I love you. What you and I have, that's between you and me, and that doesn't change until one of us says go away, and I'm not saying go away. That may be an experience. So reconnect with your authenticity. That's the journey, is reconnecting with authenticity, healing your inner wounds, and then just exploring the life, creating the life that you want, and just moving towards it. And it may end up awesome, but not the way you predicted it or not the way you thought it would be. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw recently that there's a group, unmarried.org. Okay. And there is a singles pride movement. I joked recently and been like, the next month it's going to be singles pride month.
I saw a documentary a few months ago that for the first time in history in Canada and US, singles outnumber people in pair bonds. And most of these singles are eligible for pairing up, but they choose not to be. The vast majority are choosing not to pair up. That doesn't mean they're not getting sex, they're not happy, they're lonely, and they're wanting to pair up. It means that they're relating in ways different than a traditional pair bond. They're relating in ways that don't say, you and I are a couple, right? You're never going to abandon me, right? You're going to provide for all my needs. They're saying, we're close, and we're close. The closest person I am with is this person here, but I'm still very close to that person. So it doesn't change my relationship with person A because I'm close with person B. That's happening in more than half of the people in North America at this time, which is kind of interesting.
Now, the one thing that I am concerned about it, so I agree, I have been single on off, but single for most of my adult life, more so than being in relationship. But I'm always dating. I always feel like there's like some type of like beautiful connections, and specifically of the work that I do in the world. However, in Bell Hooks's book, All About Love, she speaks to a concern about the younger generation becoming fearful of intimacy and love. And so some of this, I wonder if it's more of a coping mechanism of like, I have been hurt and heartbroken, and I realize this pair bonding doesn't work out oftentimes. So I will instead cope with that and say, I'm going to be single forever, or I'm going to be just responsible for myself and not pair bond out more of a trauma response.
Yeah, true. There's two perspectives on that. One is that it's natural to pair up and natural to form a pair bond. And that's the way people should be. That's natural and healthy. And if someone isn't going that direction, that there's something traumatic that's holding them back. There's some wound that's preventing them. There's a fear of intimacy, a fear of pairing up, a fear of commitment. There's some trauma within them that's preventing them from going that direction. That's one school of thought. The other is, this concept of pairing up, that's only been around since we've been agrarian culture, since we've become farmers. When we were nomads, hunter-gatherers, that was approximately 8,000 to 10,000 years ago, depending on where you were on the planet. People were nomadic. It didn't make sense to own anybody. It didn't make sense to say, I'm pairing up with you. We traveled in small tribes. If a child fell, nobody said, hey, whose kid is that? The entire clan felt like we're part of the tribe. This is part of us. So if a child falls down, the nearest person picks up the kid and makes sure the kid's okay. What do you need? Make sure they're fine. May need to soothe them and is there to care for them. Typically, grandparents would be the ones that would be caring most for the children because they have the most expertise. And that's because the grandparents lived in this extended family, this extended tribe. So we now live in an artificial kind of an environment where people are forced to split up from the family. Well, not forced because we have the resources now. We no longer have to be in the tribe. We can afford to have our own house with a picket fence around it, split up with two people and live in a single dwelling home with 2 adults and 2.3 kids and a dog. We now have the ability to do that. And we're living in a false environment, believing that that's the norm, to be disconnected from everyone else, from the community, but just us two. We should be super close because we should be paired up. So there's two ways of looking at it. And I won't argue that somebody should be one way or the other. I'm saying choose your own way and feel it out. And if you want that pairing up thing, go ahead and do it. Explore it, have that experience. You'll either discover you're right and give yourself a well-deserved pat on the back saying, I knew this, I did it, I found my soulmate, and I'm living happily ever after, I'm loving my life. Awesome, pat yourself on the back, you did it. Or you have time to reflect and go, this is the 4th time around and it's still not working out the way I envisioned. Maybe try something else. So there's no one right way. It's just a matter of what do you choose to experience.
So I know we're coming close to the end of this episode. Do you think about the future with your significant other?
I do. And I believe I'm a realist. True story is, 2 guys are talking about the future. And one guy says, well, you can't tell the future. And one guy says, well, I know my future. I'm going to Hawaii in 6 months. And his friend says, do you know if you're going to die within the next 6 months? The guy goes, no. He says, well, how are you sure about going to Hawaii then? So that shows you the guy believes he's going to Hawaii in 6 months, but it's just a belief that isn't based in any truth. He's made the reservations, he's paid the money, but we don't know if he's ever going to get there because he might die, he might end up getting crippled, he might change his plans. We don't truly know the future. So all we can do is set an intention. That is the reality is if we're being truthful with ourselves and self-aware, we can set an intention to say, my intention is this. So my intention with this woman is to keep on exploring our own authenticity, not clinging with each other. And that is, as long as we're inspired to be together, to spend time with each other, we will do that. And when we're no longer to do that, we'll just go our own ways.
So I'm a matchmaker.
Yeah.
And I shared with you, I have many women over the age of, 50. It's amazing women coming my way. If I was to say to you, hey, Steve, can I make some introductions for you? I have these incredible women. They're looking for really good guys. Are you available?
I would talk with you first. I would say, what is the expectation? What are they looking for? Are they looking for a pair bond? Because I'm a terrible candidate for that. Are they interested in just connecting with the guy because they find him interesting? And I believe that happens organically if there is a reason to find that person interesting, such as 2 people are talking about inner work, 2 people at a drum circle, 2 people just happen to be cycling, or 2 people walking their dogs. The commonality is, we have dogs. What is the commonality that brings you together? What is the thing that brings you together? If the thing that brings you together is I'm lonely and I want to pair up with somebody, the other person says, oh, me too. That's the base of the relationship is I want to pair up. That'll be the most important thing. That'll be the focus. And I say to you, if that's the focus, then we're already on shaky ground because that is the biggest part that's bringing us together is that we both want to pair up. We'll likely be successful at pairing up then. And then we'll run into all the problems of, well, we're paired up, or we're together, we're a couple now, aren't we? How do we make this work? Well, we spent 18 months together already. I don't want this to fall apart because I don't want to waste all this 18 months. So now you got to change so that I can feel better. I don't like this about you. And you need to provide for my needs because you're not giving me the sex that I want. Oh, you're not kinky enough for me. Or you're not doing the BDSM that I want. All those arguments, all those power struggles start happening because we've gone beyond the level of just being together. Whereas if we allow a connection to happen organically, such as two foodies just happen to be enjoying a meal together. Cool. Hey, want to go for dessert? Yeah. And that's it. No pressure, no need to pair up. It's just we're foodies. What else can you build on? What else is there that's interesting for you? What other things do you share on? And the objective isn't, I want to pair up with you. Are you the one? Or I want to pair up with someone. It's just, I'm enjoying life. And I happen to be enjoying a lot of it with you.
Yeah. I do think geographical proximity is super important in these discussions. I know there's been a lot, as I've been open before. I've done the long distance relationships. Partly, I remember there was one time I was living in New York City and I began dating a guy who was living in New Zealand at the time. Yeah. He eventually moved to Los Angeles, but it was between New York and Los Angeles. And I was building a company at the time. He was building his company. And so it was perfect for us in that time period. And I think people are really open. They want companionship. They long for this, deep love or connection, authentic connection. I would say authentic connection. And it really works best when somebody lives, I would say, at least within 100-mile vicinity around you and your partner. That would you even call a partner? Can I call her partner? She's a partner in some sense. She's a people think of us as a partner. People have looked at us and said, "Oh, you two make a lovely couple," but we both self-identify as single. So there's a lot of partner-like qualities there, yes. But I do my best I want to maintain the mindset that this can't be permanent. One of us is going to die first. So at best, I'll croak at 92 and I'll go, oh, I get to croak first, so now you have to be alone. At best, I'll croak at some age. More likely, she'll go on a sabbatical and move off to Australia, and who knows, right? Be that, you're single, she's single, but together you've created a relationship and a separate entity? Yes.
We've created a wonderful way of connecting that isn't based on ownership, isn't based on promise you'll never leave me, because we're a couple. We're together until we declare we're apart. It's that we're both living two separate lives, and I never know when I'm going to see her again.
I wouldn't qualify that as single. I wouldn't say that you're single.
That's because I think in your mind, single means available and on the hunt for others. Looking for the pair bond.
It means available. I'll say there's a availability. I wouldn't necessarily say that automatically means hunt, but it means availability.
Availability for a pair bond. Is that accurate?
Availability for an introduction, for something, for another for a deep, meaningful relationship.
Right. Yes. And we are both available for that deep relationship because neither of us believe you're only allowed one,
But you have limited energy and limited time.
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yes. So
it's kind of like the Robin Dunbar number. Do you know who Robin Dunbar is?
No.
Robin Dunbar, he's an anthropologist, and he studied the brain of primates, and he has come to the conclusion that human beings can only handle about 150 people, or 100 to 200 people, depending on the brain.
And yes.
And that there's like he defines it in circles. So the first circle is like 5 people. 5 people are the closest, maybe your parents, your kids, your colleagues, your significant other. And then there's another outer ring of 15 people, and then another outer ring of 35 people, and then the rest of the others. Yeah. So he says that one of the challenges with extroverts, we'll even say like doesn't need to be polyamorous, but like extroverts, they can take time away from deepening with somebody who's right in front of them to go out and find others and bring more energy in. And so they're missing the ability to go more deeply connect with those right in front of them. So I guess my question of that is like, we only have limited, or my thought process around this, we only have limited energy. So if we keep this idea of openness and availability, then do we run the risk of not going to deeper, more authentic levels and within ourselves and within the other human being when we remain?
Yes. The answer is yes. you're right, is that imagine a pie chart, and this is all your waking hours. How are you splitting up that pie chart? Well, there's time I need for cooking and eating and showering. And so that's my waking hours. And I've got a job in there. So you take some job out, and you say, what's left over? And where am I spending that leftover time? So one way of choosing that is I'm going to put all that into one person. Another route is I'm putting that into one person right now, but I'm okay if I took some of my other free time with another person. So I imagine, what if some other amazing person showed up in my life? And this happens every now and then. Another amazing person shows up, possibly someone I've never met in person, because people contact me virtually a lot. Is I can develop a wonderful relationship, and it doesn't compete with my primary one, because I don't want to sacrifice the time with this woman that I've seen 30% of the time. It's just a choice I make daily. Is I never know if it's the last time I see her or the last time we've had sex. I never know if this is the last time. She might die of a car accident tomorrow. I never know. So I choose daily that when I have spare time, I'd rather spend it with her. So if our time overlaps, I'd rather spend it with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it ends up working to roughly 30% of the time. So you're right. Is if another person showed up in my life that I was really enchanted with, it might mean that I might choose to spend less time with the woman that has spent 30% of my time to date, spend a little less time with her and more time there. But I find that hard to picture, because I'm really happy with what is. So I'm not looking for anything else. So I wouldn't be looking for a second partner. I wouldn't be looking for a second equal partner. I wouldn't be looking for something that looks like a partner. I would explore a connection with somebody with the common understanding that I'm deeply involved here, so you're not going to get this amount of time. That's not possible. Are you okay with that? And if you're okay with that, great. We can explore this connection as far as it goes. But I'm not interested in releasing this part here that I'm enjoying in order to spend that amount of time with you, for example.
Mm-hmm. I can see how this way of being with each other creates a constant aliveness. Yeah. It's like you never know when, like, you're always in this present moment with one another. I have a colleague who has a concept for an app called Renew. Okay. And the basis of the app, so him and his previous significant other had, when they got together, they were both newly out of other relationships. They weren't sure if they were ready for a relationship. So they decided to create a micro relationship. They said, let's do this for 30 days. And then after 30 days, they decided to continue the relationship for another 30 days and another 30 days. Eventually they got to a place where they were doing the relationship once a quarter. They would renew their relationship. And so the app Renew, the idea is that you'll, you can invite somebody into a micro relationship with you, and you can determine the time period that you'll be in relationship. You can determine if the relationship is friendship, dating, committed, marriage, and then you can create agreements inside of the app as well with one another. Yeah. I look at it like, sometimes I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool. And that's great. I like the idea of micro relationships, of going in and learn and having like a practice partner. And then there's another piece of me that's like, ooh, this is like, there's a control element to it. Like, we're going to make agreements and we're going to determine the amount of time that we're spending together. So I'm curious what you think.
Thoughts on this?
Yes.
I think that's a really neat app. I'll tell you why. Is it will raise a person's awareness of what's actually going on that they haven't thought about before. So when people go into a relationship, especially if they're looking for a pair bond type of thing, is that the person has expectations that they're likely not even aware of and likely have not articulated. So you can't articulate something if you're not aware of it. So they likely have expectations that they expect of the other person, and they only discover it when something happens that is not that expectation, when they experience contrast. For example, imagine two people, they believe they're a couple, they don't live with each other, they spend a lot of time with each other, they believe we're a couple, we're solid, we're monogamous with each other. And then one day she wants to check her email, so she goes over to his laptop and notices that the window is open to a web chat, to a webcamming session with a for-pay porn website. And you realize for the first time, oh, my guy pays for web sex. and doesn't feel good about it. Never thought of it before. Never said, oh, by the way, here's my list of 2,085 things that I'm not good with. Do you comply? Never thought of that. But now for the first time is encountering this thing. So how that app will be helpful is it'll help to ask the questions. It's not demanding you must have these agreements. It's really saying, what awareness do you have of the things that you want? And is the other person agreeing to it? You're not making the demand saying you must do this. What you're actually doing, hopefully, is saying is, here's what I'm looking for in a person who would be my long-term partner. This is the qualities I would like, that I imagine I would like. How do you fit into this? How do you feel? Hopefully the other person is being authentic and saying, yeah, match. With that thing there, no, I definitely don't feel that way about that. Is this big enough to leave over? Is this big enough to say, well, I'll have you as a fuck buddy, but not as a long-term partner? And there's no right answer. It's just a matter of whatever you choose. And unfortunately, most people don't think to that level. They don't have that level of self-awareness to say, what is that I'm wanting, expecting, hoping for, craving from this other person? Because ideally, even two deeply wounded person, if they fit together with wounds that mesh, might feel really good with each other. For example, if she's a woman that, if you imagine a woman who feels good through acts of service, she feels good when she's nurturing and rescuing somebody. And she pairs up with a guy who's emotionally immature, who needs a lot of tending, that what he wants more than anything is to feel loved and adored. So she texts him several times a day, hey, honey, just thinking of you, wondering if you're okay. And he gets a text at work and going, oh, man, this is wonderful. This girl really loves me. They're feeling good about each other because they're feeding into each other's wounds. And it appears to be okay. So they're not being triggered most of the time, and they can feel good about each other. So there's an example of dysfunction that's still feeling pretty okay. So would you say, tell these people, oh, no, don't do that because you're dysfunctional. You need help from a therapist. Don't do that. It's just an exploration. So have that experience. You'll surely have your wobbles. And when they happen, you now have an opportunity to look inside and say, well, what do we do about it? So that app is good. It's helpful. It's bringing clarity to things you might not have thought of. What commitment are you making? What commitment do you want to make? Are you on the same page? What do you expect?
Amazing. Thank you. He's gonna really appreciate your feedback inside of this. Thank you, Steve, for the conversation. Before we wrap up, is there anything that you're feeling burning that you believe might be helpful for listeners to hear?
No, we could talk about this for hours and hours. I love these conversations. We could talk about romanticism, what it is, dysfunction being normalized in our societies, talk about lasting happiness. The basic message I'm giving everyone is, whoever you are on the inside, it will surely show up in your outer world, everywhere. So if you want a better sex life, or if you want a better relationship life, a better love life, a better connected life with someone else, if that's what you want, then become the person that naturally lets that happen. So if a guy wants a woman who doesn't judge me, how good are you at being non-judgmental? Are you acing that? Can you just look at her and say, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. You're fine as you are. If you can be that non-judging guy with her, then you kind of invite that from them. And you don't take it personally when they're being judging, because you're going, oh, it's just the way she is. You know, she doesn't like this, and that's okay. I'm okay with who I am. She just doesn't like that characteristic in me. Oh, well. So reconnect with your authenticity, work on inner stuff, and just explore life. It's just an experience. Nothing's permanent.
Both of those, the connecting with your own authenticity and being able to express it and share that with others. And then also, going out into the world and adventuring, because there are billions of people that live amongst our existence. And we get so caught sometimes thinking like, ending up in these relationships that are, sort of entrapping us into this reality that, part of us is like yearning to get out, but we don't think there's anything else available. And the fun thing is, when you open up there's so much when you walk out the door, there's so much happening. And maybe, I don't know, if you live in a small town somewhere and there's not much happening, you can jump online and join us in the Esther Perel discussion group. And there's also multi-day retreats and festivals and events and things happening elsewhere that you can for sure connect. You don't have to get all the hits from the digital space. There's much to be happening in real life where you're being with each other in person.
Something else I want to share is to somebody who's listening to this podcast. If you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, I don't know if Christina is right for me, I would encourage you is give it a try, because whatever information Christina throws your way, that's going to be like a seed planted in your brain, and it's going to start spreading and rooting out. And it may bring you greater clarity to say, that thing she said, I don't agree 100%, but there's truth in that. And I'm going to go in this direction inspired by something Christina said to me. Explore it. It's just another experience. Try it on for size, explore it, and take what is usable to you and use it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Deepen with Christina. Again, if you do enjoy this podcast, please do like, subscribe, give it 5 stars. It helps more people find it, helps me continue to host it. And go check out the calendar, wedeepen.com. Love to see you in person. Of course, I love connecting online in the virtual space, but even more than ever, I curate these experiences so we can be together, learn and grow and practice love and community. Okay, bye for now.